Hi, welcome to the Business Class ESL Breakroom. We're a company of passionate language trainers and coaches. We're here to share ideas to improve our skills and strengthen the training community. Come in for some inspiration, leave with tips to apply to your sessions today. Hi everyone, and welcome to the ESL Breakroom. It's September, and for many of us, we have never lost that association with back to school time. And this month's topic has us back squarely in the classroom or training room. Our guest today is Anthony Schoch, a fellow business class trainer who is passionate about his job and in particular about the process of learning. So I wanted to chat with him about how he views his work, why he recently went back and renewed his certification, and what he's excited about right now in ESL. The idea is that in sharing our own thought processes and motivations, we're providing food for thought for the rest of us as to how we reflect on our work. So welcome, Anthony. It's good to have you here.
Hey, Sue. Well, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So first, for those who don't know you, can you say a bit about your own story, the how and the why of you becoming a trainer?
Yes. So my story is, I'm sure, similar to that of a lot of trainers and ESL teachers. Originally, I was not intending to do this to teach. I was not intending this to be my long-term job, but it turned out to be that way. My background. So my background is actually in anthropology. I got a bachelor's in political science, but then I started a postgrad in anthropology, and so I would say that teaching was more like an auxiliary profession in the sense that what it enables you to do. You're like, oh yes, well it opens a lot of doors, and I lived in South America for 2 years, and that's how I started teaching. And then I'm still teaching, so then something must have gone well. And
well, I mean, I know you enough to say more than something's gone well. You're gifted, you enjoy it, and you seem to be really passionate about it, and you're definitely the coworker who always has the latest on ESL happenings or ESL research. So that's why we wanted to talk to you also to get your input. May I ask, so you've recently gone back and renewed your TEFL certification with a Trinity TESOL with Trinity College in London. What motivated you to do that?
Well, I would say that it was really so that I could have something to compare myself with in terms of compare my knowledge, compare my experience, and having going through this course kind of gave me the confirmation that okay, well, I know that, right? I can do these. I've these correction techniques, for example, or this approach to vocabulary. And so it kind of comforted me, because otherwise I felt like, well, it's not really, when you want to become a professional, I think there's experience, but there's also qualifications. And I don't think that you need to be qualified in the sense of having all these certifications to be a good ESL teacher, to be a good business English trainer. But it does help to kind of gauge your level of knowledge and practice also, because there was a practical, the course was very practical, and there was we had 6 hours of observation.
Wow.
Yeah.
May I ask that makes me want to know your observation. Was there anything surprising that came out of the feedback from that?
Well, what happened is that the observation made you first plan, because you had to have really a formal lesson plan, and so you had to see, everybody had your plan, so everybody knew what you were gonna do. There was no way to say, okay, no, I'm not. So you had to like dive into it. And basically it was an experiment. And at the end, how did it go? So it's really to see, okay, so you had this plan. How did it go after? I think that was the main learning for me that I got from that.
Cool. Okay. Well, I would definitely applaud your conscientiousness, because it takes somebody who's very conscientious, self-reflective, to actually want to go back and do a certification to say, okay, well, I've learned this. Now I've been working. And now how am I doing at it? So good for you.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I was going to say, I think professional development is especially important in our field because the kind of feedback we get, well, it's really, we don't get that much. I mean, we get the feedback from our learners. We know when things are going well, but we don't get, kind of this external, view from other trainers, other teachers. So that's why also the motivation to do these courses.
Yeah, I think that's in general, you find that in ESL, having worked for other companies, that's often the case. You don't hear much. I mean, luckily with business class, we do try to audit and try to check in on what we do and make it a point to check in on our trainers and make sure the quality is there, which is what we stand for. So yeah, but you're right. It's true. It's not always standard. So what I'm curious about is, can you say, what are you excited about these days? Because you always have a new book or a new idea to share at work.
Yes, my philosophy is be excited, and so that's why I like your question. Is you need to be excited about your job, especially our job, and if you're excited and if you're motivated, that's going to give you. Make your learners feel that as well. I think it is contagious also, although learners don't always, they don't see exactly. I mean, we're not, my level of excitement about the, methods, I can't really share it with my learners theoretically. But it's also, I think it helps, fatigue and it can be a tool on your energy to our job. It requires a lot of energy. So I think, being motivated about something is really, so that's what I do. I always get a new book this summer, I read one of the big ELT authors, applied linguist, Paul Nation. I read one of his books, and just before I was learning about this approach, which is called task-based learning.
Task-based learning. Okay, so let's hear it. Task-based learning. What's your take on it?
Right. So first, I want to say that I think sometimes I have the impression that there's like a conspiracy in ELT. And it's like you have course book publishers, and then you have certified course programs, and they want us to teach using ineffective methods. I mean, sometimes that's my impression, because up until I discovered task-based learning, well, the references I had were textbooks. And what do you do when open any textbook. Okay, so I'm going to do this test with you. I have business results. I'm going to go on a random page, and I have a section called language of work, present perfect. Okay, so what does that tell me? And then I turn the page, and there's another one on working with words. So what does that tell me, really? Well, the main movement in ELT, and so far no, because there was a turn, but now it seems since that podcast I sent you, Jeff Jordan, there was a turn in the 80s, and that's when the industry, the publishing industry, really came out strong and started publishing all these materials. So what the content of the course book tells me is that it's all about getting the language right It's all about using the present perfect. It's all about, learning these words. And at the end of the day, you feel, I mean, that's demotivating. It is. It feels like it takes all the meaning really out of the process of learning, and that's when that's why task-based learning to me was like a revelation.
So how is it different? Task-based learning. Can you give me a concrete example?
Yeah. So first of all, well, the basic idea approach of task-based learning is that it's fluency first. Okay. So whereas you have the course book is accuracy first, meaning that you learn how to communicate, and then you practice what you've learned. Mm-hmm. Fluency first is, well, you learn by communicating. So the main activity that you're going to do in a task-based language setting is all going to be about communication. The focus on language, okay, the focus on accuracy and on, okay, is this the right tense? Is this how you say? That's important too, but it comes after.
So I get the idea, but can I ask you, how does that work with total beginners or people who don't have the building blocks to get there?
I'll give you the example of communication. Communication, you can communicate without knowing all the words, right? And I would just go, if you go to a foreign country and, if you don't know the language, you just know a bit, and you're a bit courageous because not everybody does this, but you're going to be in situations where you're going to have to communicate. You might not know all the words. So I don't think that not knowing all the words means you can't start with the communicative activity. Mm-hmm. There are things that you do in lower level groups. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about elementary. And I think you're going to have to obviously feed the language. You're going to have to, be scaffold and help learners a lot more. I believe in that. That's just not me that's saying it, but all the supporters of TPL say that it's not only for advanced learners.
Interesting. So I understand better. You do scaffold, as you call it. You do provide some phrases or some basics that someone might need. But so would the difference be then, let's say if this is someone who's A1 leading up to A2 really basic, they would, you just get them to jump right in and try to achieve something?
I mean, I wouldn't do that. If you're a total beginner, at this point, you don't start speaking like that. I mean, first you need to have input, and actually what I believe in, and that's what research also shows, is that when you're a beginner, while you don't, it's been shown that when you look at somebody who goes to learn a language in an immersive environment and learning an L2, well, you're going to see that at the beginning, they're going to be soaking up the language. Mm-hmm. And it's only after they start understanding, so after the meaning that after they see, they hear words, they recognize the word and the meaning, thanks to the contact, that they're going to start using it. So, I wouldn't necessarily use task-based learning at A1. Maybe it's possible. Why not? I'd have to think about certainly ways to make it possible. Mm-hmm. maybe we should go back and define task-based learning.
Absolutely. For everyone and for me and the listeners to hear, what is it for you exactly? And then how have you been working with it in your own lessons?
So I think the key to TBL is real life communication, right? And this is really about what we call the communicative language teaching, which interestingly, not a lot of people do apparently. Or at least people try. We try, ESL teachers try, but it's I think again because of the publishing companies and the message we get about how to train and teach. Let's remember what learners want to do with the language. They want to communicate, right? And as soon as we come in the language classroom, our goal should be to ignite the communication, if I may say, to set the stage up to ensure that learners are going to communicate in an authentic way, because that's what you do in real life, right? You communicate you don't say, okay, wait, I'm going to do my role play here. Or you don't say, okay, wait, let me learn the present perfect, or let me learn the past simple, and then I'm going to talk to you. No, that's not how it goes, right? So, the key, I think, is real life communication, and or of course, because you're still in the classroom, so there's still artificial, there's still an artificial feeling to it. Mm-hmm. You're going to do what's called a task, and a task is an activity that resembles real life activity, or that's going to be useful for something you might do in the real life. Okay. Now, should I go on?
Yeah, just playing devil's advocate in a little bit. How is that different from a role play? Doesn't a role play do that?
No, because the role play is you putting on a role. So there's so you have to put your shoes into a role, and usually you have a card, like there's role play cards. So you're following what somebody else wants you to say, and of course you can improvise, and it's fun. And role plays are communicative, Mm-hmm. I like them, and I think they can be fun, and some learners may not like it. With the task-based learning is that you can be free to. You are yourself, and what changes is the situation that you're in. That's all.
Okay. So you're the learners themselves, and maybe I get the sense they're trying to achieve something. They kind of want a result.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's one of the key elements to a task, is that you need to have a purpose. So, okay, well, let's say that we're going to talk about, I don't know, so can you maybe submit a topic of discussion that
oh my goodness, topics of discussion. It's a bit abstract today. We just had somebody, we were talking about essentialism, time management, how we think about time. This was a higher level B2 person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's a great example. Let's start with task management. So here's one way to do it. You could have a discussion. First of all, discussion on what is time management. You can ask them to, questions about, are you good at time management? And so that's one option. Now, if you do that, what might happen is that if they're not extremely talkative, or if the subject is just not interesting to them, it's going to die out, and you're gonna have to, find something essentially to get them talking, and that's the thing, right? The idea is to get learners to communicate, with a purpose. Because if you don't have a purpose, then conversation can die out. So here's something that you could do. Make it a task-based learning. All right. So first you have a stage where you kind of activate any language, any vocabulary that could be useful. It could be in the form of just a discussion. What is time management, and then you could give an example. You could yourself talk about your example and ask them for advice. What do you think I should do, or do I have a good time management or not? So anyways, get the language started. And once you've done that, the task could be, okay, I want you now to decide, right? And here's a key word. So you have these, this can be helpful. You have a lot of the time, because they're problem solving, tasks are problem solving, you have action verbs that imply a solution, right? So here, decide, right? Decide who has the best time management strategy. Okay, that could be an example.
Among the class members.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so then they're going to jump into immediately compare and contrast.
Exactly. Then they're going to have to communicate, and then they have to agree on a solution. So there's like a clear, when the task is complete. So the activity is, if they've met the objective because they've decided.
Interesting. Oh, I like this. Okay. That's really fun. Okay, so you start out with sort of your classic brainstorm, warmer conversation, which brings up the vocab, which gives them the opportunity to get a bit of help. And then you set them on it with a action-oriented, verb-based decide. Love it.
Exactly. So this is one of the key decision-making, problem-solving task. Decide. You can also suggest is a great one. So suggest ways to, so that could be another problem solving. Suggest ways to be better organized with your work. Okay. So then they have to come up with the solution. You can choose. Ranking is also a good way. So if you have, you could have different. You can have them brainstorm that. What are the best ways to become good with time management, to manage your time well, and then after you have, okay, now you have to rank them. So that's another one.
Excellent. Well, I like this. So could you share with us maybe something you've done recently in a session that maybe you've done differently now that you've gotten into task-based learning?
Yeah. So, well, this is really recent for me, I have to say. So, I haven't had a lot of time. Right now, I'm actually busy creating material. So hopefully, business class trainers will get a chance to see them, because that's what I'm doing. And I actually wanted to try one of the course I designed for my group today, but it didn't happen. There was a late cancellation. Okay. But yeah, I'll talk about some things I've done. So there was one of them. It was just, well, actually, yeah, I did it last time, and I had them decide on their needs. So this is like an intro session, and because it can be quite difficult sometimes to come up with a little program that can satisfy everybody, because some people, they want to focus on writing, other so it can be sometimes a little bit of a headache. I must say I'm still finding ways to deal with that. But anyway, so what I did was I had them the session before that, I must say, I had them write what they would like from the course. Then I made a list, and I just listed all the things that they mentioned, and I mixed it up. And I told them, so I want you to choose the top three on the list and the bottom last. So, I mean, this could be like a real world thing. Maybe you have to decide together. So real world task. I mean, obviously the context, because you have to have a subject context, which is, relevant, which is based on their needs as well. So if they're in a company and they tell you meetings, well, you know that the tasks, maybe we can get into that. We can talk about it after the needs analysis, because it's really important. I mean, here, so this was a little bit of a, this was a ranking activity. That's what I did. And I, with the session before that, I had them, it was a get to know you. So I wrote, they had to write their name on a card. And then they had to write a statement about themselves on another card. This is a flashcard. So what I did, I collected the name. I made sure that they had to make sure it wasn't, they used capital letters, so you couldn't match the name card with the information card. So I mixed them up and I said, okay, now decide who you think who you think is the person that that matches with the card.
Okay, fun.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So thinking of our trainers and our audience, we have a lot of business people to train. And one thing that comes up over and over and over again is either, in my experience, past tense or present perfect. So if I give you those two things, the context of business and either getting people squared away on their past tenses or present perfect, what would you recommend a trainer do?
Yeah, well, this is kind of a controversial thing. I mean, this is precisely what in TBL we wouldn't do. What I mean by that is that if you're focusing on the present, if you're focusing on grammar, then you're focusing on grammar first. That means that your goal is to get them to use that language. Now, with TBL, it would be different, right? It would be, first you start on the task. So you start in a communicative context, and after you can focus on some language that emerged from that task. So in TBL, I would say that, again, this is part of the communicative language teaching, current, which started out in the 80s, and you have dogme, which is another version of that. The idea, the central tenet is that, okay, if you teach people how to use the present perfect, well, I can almost certainly guarantee that they might get it right if you do a little practice at the end. There's good chances that they won't. So imagine you say, okay, we'll have, tell us about how long have you been working for your company, and then you practice that, and then you have them do, okay, now interview each other. There's good chances that you're going to hear, I was working since, or so, you know what I mean? So that's why it's not effective. That's why the way that, and this is confirmed by research, is that the way that learners acquire grammar structure is independent. It's really something that we can control it by correcting them, by giving them feedback. We can help them, raise their attention and say, when you said that, what tense was that? Did you use this tense? Was that the past simple? Okay. And, that's the thing. Sometimes they don't even notice it. I mean, and because that's also, sometimes they're not ready for it. And so there is, and this is also a big part of the, what communicative language teaching says based on the research, is that we can't force learners to suddenly learn, a tense, because they have their own internal syllabus. This is a kind of how we say, this is polarizing, because even with learners themselves, I have the discussion, and I know that you probably have, where a learner comes up and he says, I want to learn, I want to improve my grammar.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to kind of tell, and with corrections, it's that way too. Sometimes they want to be corrected immediately, and they think that accuracy is the most important thing. Maybe it's the French. It's true that in French accuracy is very important, but that's not with TBL. That's not what you want to focus on. You don't want to say, okay, well, yeah, the past. I would say just ease on the grammar, and focus more on the communicative situation that's going to give them experience, that's going to give practice, and maybe they're going to become aware of a gap that they have, precisely with a tense that you might want to teach, like the past simple. And when they become aware of that gap, that's when you do the teaching. That's where it's effective. But otherwise.
So it sounds like, if I'm understanding you correctly, it's something you intersperse. It's a tool in your toolkit, task-based learning, that you bring in. And if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like maybe you're recommending more of that in the sauce, so to speak, so that people get more experience, direct experience with the language. Yeah. And then from that, you get the evidence of what they need to work on.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. So it's when they become aware of the gap. That's the first step to learning. You have to know what you're missing, and you want to fill that gap. And so that's when it becomes effective. That's when the language focus becomes effective.
I think it's also a lot more satisfying for the learners. I mean, to be honest, it sounds like something I try to do a lot anyway, kind of in the groups naturally, just get them speaking, it needs to come from them. It needs to be what's important to them anyway. But I think they get the most satisfaction from trying it out. And what we also hear over and over is we don't have an opportunity to practice elsewhere. So you do need to keep speaking.
Yeah, and it's language is not an object of study. It's not like biology where you learn about it. It's something that it's communicative. It's the really what you need to so you need to use it in order to learn it. You can't learn about it, because that's what they've been doing at school, learning about it and not using it.
Right.
And so communicate, having this room for communication. And with task-based language, sometimes you don't, you can have learners who are really, who just, they just want to talk, and that's great, because they're doing it. But task-based learning just can be a way to organize the talk so that everybody has the chance to participate, and it's more structured.
So it is more structured. So you're not letting them get away with just chatting. You're giving them something to do so that they need to use language and stretch their vocabulary. So can I ask, as we kind of round things out, what challenge might you want to offer some of our listeners, or either challenge them to try something in the class, or is there a couple of favorites that you might want to suggest to give them?
Yeah, so there is a book that I got this summer, which is by Penny Ure.
I had that book. Does that work?
Yeah, discussions at work.
Book. I have it, or had it. I don't know where it went, but I have it.
Well, there you go. So you've been practicing the TEFL.
I have been for 20 years.
That's right. So this is really great. I mean, I opened the page the other day and I was like, wow, that's a great idea. And I actually tried it the other day, and it went well.
What was it? Tell us.
Yeah, so it was a picture. It was about describing a picture. It was a elementary group,
Mm-hmm.
and they first I showed them this photographer, his French photographer Henri Cartier-Bresson, and the context was, what did you see go to any exhibits during during the summer? And so I said, well, I went to this exhibit, and then I showed them a little clip of this photographer actually commenting his photos.
Mm-hmm.
So then what I did, I gave him some pictures, and I said, now you're going to be the photographer. So I want you to, give us a little explanation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. That's a fun one. That's so funny. Yeah. Amazing. Is there anything else that popped out recently?
So in terms of like references, is that things?
A reference or even an actual activity? If somebody's just not needs that little push, what's another activity?
Yeah,
helpful?
I mean, just remember to have when you have a topic, so you want to have a topic, something that the learners can relate to, and here's what Penny Ure actually says about this, what the subject is. She says the subject consists of two things: a basic conflict or problem, which can be expressed in more or less abstract terms, an expression in sexual context. So choose something that has this kind of topic that can be problematic, like a company that that needs to reduce its costs, right?
Problem solving.
Yeah, exactly. I think use a problem solving activity, and again, remember those words: suggest, decide, choose, right, and rank. Think about these keywords and try to see how can you use that in your lesson.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anthony. Those are great tips and just very simple. Suggest, decide, rank, and
choose.
Choose. Love it. Those are quick, actionable, memorable.
There's one also I could recommend is a book which is called Keep Talking. And it's got tons of activities in there, and they're really good. You can adapt them, but if you can get your hands on it, it's been out there for a long time. But
Keep Talking. Is it still in print?
I would think so. Just do a quick search on Amazon, and I would hope so, at least. Or if it's not, then shame on the publisher. I think it's still, it's called Keep Talking, Communicative Fluency Activities for Language Teachers.
Fantastic. I'll put those notes in the podcast notes below, and Penny Ure, Discussions That Work. I have to dig out my copy or find the friend I gave it to. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for joining us on ESL Breakroom. It's been really a pleasure and informative.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure as well.
All right. See you soon.
Thanks for joining us in the Business Class ESL Breakroom, the podcast designed to bring business English trainers useful ideas, inspiration, and conversation that motivates. Follow us on Instagram at business_class_language and subscribe to the ESL Breakroom playlist on Spotify, Deezer, or Apple Music for new episodes. See you next time.